Okay. Go with it.
Was lost but not forgotten.
Hey, it's Friday afternoon. I'm here at wow, here at Hope Recovery or Hope Radio and Hope Media, whatever we're calling it today. We're calling it all three, I think. Anyway, it is run by Sean Kelly, my buddy Sean Kelly. He allows us to come on here and do this. And here we are, Friday afternoon again, my favorite time. I am really excited today about a lot of things, but I'm always excited about talking to my guest because, again, like I say, I just try and bring in smarter people than me so that I can learn something. But also because we talk about a lot of things out there and issues that people might be having, so that maybe somebody's listening. Hopefully somebody's listening. Well, I know God will get the right person to listen. And if you can be helped out any type of way, that's really all we're here for. If one person gets one thing out of anything one time, then it's worth me doing the show every week for the rest of my life is the way I feel. So, and I do this because I owe it to the Lord. So I try and do everything unto the Lord and give him the glory. All of this was made possible by the Lord, period. The fact that I can get down here on a Friday, the fact that Sean has this going on, a buddy of mine just happened to build a studio and start a radio station. So I just love to take care of that, try and take care of that part of my my walk. So let me tell you a little bit about Men of Impact. Men of Impact is spelled with a K, of course. Impact is spelled with a K. And what happened was the way this all happened is that it started as a Saturday morning Bible study twice a month. Well, now we do it every single Saturday morning. We do it at the Starbucks off of Indian Truck Trail off the 15 freeway. Starbucks in the Vaughn Center. It's the Sycamore Creek Center. I started it that way, and through this group, I met some incredible men of impact. These guys taught me what it was like to be a dad, a husband, a spiritual leader, and a lot more than that, because I was really choking hard on that. I wasn't doing well on any of those things, and I was keeping it all to myself. Quite honestly, guys, I'm telling you right now, if you're a man, you're not in some type of men's group, you think you're alone. You think that you're the only one having this, and you feel like you're on a deserted island. Well, when I opened up and started talking to men, I realized that you can't be on a deserted island if everybody knows where it's at. So you got to tell them where your island is. We still have that Saturday morning Bible study, like I said. If you need any information or you want some materials, right now we are studying the book of Isaiah. You can email us at menofimpact@gmail.com, impact with a K. You can go onto the Facebook page, which is Men of Impact, impact with a K. You can go on our Instagram, send me a message there. We have a website, but we're having some technical difficulties with that website right now. So just check on all the other places. Send me an email. The other thing that we like to do is the other thing that we'd like to say is, hey, if you're not in a men's Bible study, you need to get one. If you can't get into one, start one. Me and a buddy of mine started this one about 5 years ago, sitting at a Starbucks, just two of us. If you need some coaching or some encouragement about how to get that going and what we did to start that, then just, again, contact us through one of those avenues that I just told you about, and we'll help you out. I got lots of guys that can help you out with that. And listen, like I always say, I got a guy. Trust me. I got a guy that can help you if you're struggling with alcoholism, drugs, if you're struggling with divorce, if you're struggling with grief. There's a guy that can talk to you. If you need something done around the house, I'll get a bunch of guys. If you need something like that taken care of, I'll get a bunch of guys. We can help you out. So the Bible teaches us that we are the church and buildings are just buildings. So that's why we actually, hello, Orinthia, she sent us a group. Isolation is not what God intended for us. Yet as men, it is kind of our go-to move. Right, guys? I mean, we spend money to build a man cave. I mean, honestly, spend money to build a place so that we can be alone without our wives and our children and with ourselves or just with our guys. We know that we in the group, we know that can be bad, isolation. So we meet and we hold each other accountable. We ask this. Listen, guys, we ask for this, and we have great friendships because of it. And I mean 6:30 to 8 a.m. every Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m. A bunch of guys meet. So we meet, we talk, we joke, we laugh, and we study. And I mean, we laugh a lot. The radio show is just a manifestation of the impact these men have had on my life. And of course, to show my daughters that there really are guys like that out there. I think that the world, that this country, heck, this city, this world, this country needs to know that these real heroes exist in life and not just on some stage, screen, field, or court. Men of impact come in all shapes and sizes, and they are around us every day, but we miss them in our busyness. These are not perfect men, but they are men who understand that they can't be perfect, and they still fight for that every single day. They just get up and do the grind. We as men are called to be spiritual leaders in our families, in our communities, and our world. I hope that tonight encourages somebody out there that there are such men out there in our cities and in our country. I hope it encourages women that God does have that man of their dreams for them. We as men need to step up and be bold and courageous in our beliefs, values, and morals. If we as men were doing what we were supposed to do, what we are ordained to do, we wouldn't have things like foster care, adoption, single moms, CPS, rehab, maybe not even prisons. We need to bring the family back. And fellas, it's up to you. So if you're not hanging out with some guys, if you're not doing Bible study, start your own Bible study. Honestly, the vision for us on Saturday mornings is that we have chapters everywhere. My first goal is to get chapters in all of the Starbucks in Corona, but we've got a chapter out in LA right now. Ray Enriquez heads up that chapter. He's got a few guys out there studying the Bible. Another buddy of mine, Radex, is going to start one out in Texas. You got to start your own, man. Don't worry about it. God, it's not your Bible study anyway. It's God's Bible study. God will grow the group the way it needs to be grown, and he'll certainly grow you the way you need to be grown. If you're faithful, it'll happen. So again, if you have any questions or any help you need, how to get that figured out, any encouragement, call us, because Lord knows when it's been going for 5 years. And there were times in there I said to myself, why am I doing this 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday morning? You got to be flipping kidding me. Why am I doing this? But it's because God, that's what he's called me to do. And that's what we do. And the growth that has happened for a lot of these men that I've heard from their wives, their kids, and these men, as well as my own growth, has been incredible for these last 5 years. So I really enjoy it. So today we're going to be talking to a friend of mine who I met at the group. He showed up to group one week, and we're gonna find out where he figured that out. And but he showed up to group one week, and now we've been friends. He's the one that designed our website that we're having technical difficulties with, but no fault of his own. That's okay. We got a guy, so we're gonna get that figured out. He's got an interesting, a very interesting story, which I know a little bit about, but I like to save a lot of it for my interview. So we're going to go with that. And right now, I'm just going to have him introduce himself, tell you a little bit about himself, and then I've got lots of questions. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. That was great. Yeah, my name is Ray Prospero. Married, husband, father of 4 kids. Grew up right here locally in Corona, California.
Right here locally.
Yeah.
Which high school did you go to?
Corona High.
Corona High. Unbelievable. I just was talking to a guy last night at my marriage study. He went to Corona High. Actually 2 nights ago. Wow. Time flies. All right, Ray. So how long have you been married?
Gonna be 20 years actually this year in July. Yeah.
Mine's 20 years in October.
Yeah. It's crazy. It goes by fast.
It goes by fast. There was some times where it went by pretty slow, but it goes by fast.
Well, probably went by slow more for my wife than for me. So
I feel the same way. I know it went a lot slower for my wife than it did for me. She certainly remembers a lot more than I did.
Same. Very.
So, and how many? You have 4 kids. What are their ages?
So, yeah, we have a big spread. So we have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, an 11, and a 4-year-old. Yeah.
And 2 boys, 2 girls. Yeah.
Yeah. 2 boys, 2 girls.
Their names. Come on.
Oh yeah. Oldest is Reagan. Then we have Avery. So the girls are the oldest, and then the boys are the younger ones. So the 11-year-old is Cruz, and then the 4-year-old is Elijah.
Okay. And so you are currently in business for yourself. Tell me a little bit about your business, where it's at, what you do,
Yeah, no problem.
maybe a
So
website, that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
stuff.
So right now I'm a partner advisor. I'm a financial advisor. I do work for a company called Advice Period, who is based out of LA. We do have an office here in Riverside. So I'm in wealth management services. I help people kind of reach their financial goals by giving them fiduciary advice.
Like I
Um,
said, I got a guy.
yeah, that's right. But I mean, with COVID, we're all kind of working from home, and it looks like it's going to be that way. At least through 2021. So my commute is all of like 15 feet, which is nice. It took a while to get used to, and now that it's been a full year, I kind of like it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So do you have a website, a landing
Yeah,
page?
yeah. So office website is www.adviceperiod.com. My personal website is my name, www.rayprospero.com. Office number, which will just go to my cell, is area code 714-714-7549.
714-714.
Yeah.
Nice.
The office. Yeah, I don't know.
And Prospero is spelled.
Yeah,
obviously
it's like prosperous or prosper with an O at the end. Prospero.
All right, and we'll before we sign off, we're gonna give them that information again. But so there's a few things that we want to talk about. Number one, that I know about you. Well, let me ask you this. So, tell me a little bit about your. You went to Corona High.
Yeah.
Right. You graduated from Corona High.
Yep.
From there, what happened?
Yeah. So from high school, went straight to college. So went to college at Cal State Fullerton, and that's kind of where I met my wife. Didn't do much learning as most people do. I went straight into the Greek system. So I was a fraternity guy, essentially. Liked to party, yeah, not so much studying. The good that came of that is that I did make some lifelong friendships from that. Yeah, I still keep in touch with a core group of guys. We actually get together every year, once a year, and we play golf. But as life goes on and we get older, you kind of lose touch a little bit, especially with working family and 4 kids. Then from Cal State Fullerton, I went to law school at University of Laverne. And so I did that and went to law school while working full time. So those
full time as what?
As a paralegal.
As a paralegal.
Yeah, I actually worked as a paralegal full time doing my undergrad. So
and there's another question I have. What did you major in at Cal State?
Political science. I started as a business major, and then I think I took like my first 2 accounting courses, and I'm like, no. and I knew I wanted to go to grad school after, so I was like, okay, let's, so I did political science. I think most pre-law people do that. They major in political science or criminal justice. So that's what I did. Yeah.
And but you have so then you went to grad school, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I watched a show when you were on at this very station.
Yeah.
With Nazareth, right?
Yep.
And what kind of law degree do you have?
What do you mean, like a JD? I have a JD.
What is a JD?
Oh, a Juris Doctor.
So you have a doctorate in law.
Yeah, yeah. I thought I was waiting for the joke. I was waiting for you. I was like,
no, I didn't. That is. So. How much school did that take?
What? If you go full time. So your undergrad is 4 years, and if you go full-time law school, that's just 3 years on top of that. Because I went to school at night and I worked full-time, I got out in 4 years. So I did 4.5 years of undergrad and then another 4 years after that. So 8.5 years.
8.5 years.
Yeah.
So undergrad, 4 years of
4.5 years at Cal State Fullerton.
Right.
Yeah. And then 4 years at University of Laverne.
Yeah. For a Juris Doctorate.
Yeah.
So that's not just a regular.
Yeah, I mean it's whatever. It's just a couple letters,
Okay. So that would be the equivalent of a PhD, right? But in law.
Yeah. I mean,
I love that you're humble, but I'm impressed.
Oh, thanks.
It's impressive to me. So then you get out of law school.
Yep.
And of course, at that point, you're an attorney, yes?
Yeah, yeah.
And did you go work for a company? Did you start your own
Yeah,
practice?
no, I was actually kind of fortunate because the law school I went to, it's a good law school, but it's very small. Not a lot of people know about it other than here in Southern California. Because I had worked through undergrad and through law school, I had experience. So I actually got hired right away at the firm I had worked at. So I worked at like a corporate law firm in Orange County in Newport Beach for a little bit.
All right.
So they hired me right on.
And so how long did you do that? Because we're going to get into a lot of the story.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I only practiced law for, I think it was just under 5 years. It was just enough for me to start getting into just a little bit of trouble with some addiction issues. So
and there we are.
Yeah.
What kind of addiction issues?
Yeah. So we'll just segue right through it. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, there's a couple things that happened, right? It was like, I had some behavior younger that I see now. I didn't see at the time, right? I partied a lot in high school. I partied a lot in college. All of a sudden, I'm in this high stress job, and so the only way I knew how to cope with things, with stress, was to party. And so,
and what kind? Listen, what kind of party?
Oh yeah. I was an alcoholic, full-fledged alcoholic.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and so, the stress. I just didn't have any healthy way to cope with it. And so unfortunately, it just spiraled out of control really fast.
And and were you married at this time?
I was married.
Okay.
So we got married actually pretty young. I met my wife in college, and literally as soon as I graduated college, like, we got married. So I was 22. Yeah.
So 22, married right out of college, and drinking.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That causes any strain on your marriage?
No, just because I think we met the way we met. I was a fraternity guy. My wife was in a sorority. So we kind of were, we had mutual friends that would party and drink and all that. So it wasn't really frowned upon. It's just kind of socially acceptable.
Right.
It wasn't until it really kind of spiraled into some kind of an addiction that the days where I would lie and not be where I told her I'd be, not come home at night, all that fun stuff, or spending all our money and just not putting us in a good spot financially because of the alcoholism. That's kind of when it caught up with me. But before that, it was just kind of socially acceptable behavior. Looking back, there were definitely red flags. Like, it's not normal to kind of puke out of the window of a moving car on the freeway.
No, that's not normal.
Not normal, right? But I didn't know any different.
And I get that. I mean, I was there with you, and not with you. We weren't together. We just met.
Yeah.
But I mean, that is one of my problems. I had lots of addictions. Mine unfortunately wasn't just alcohol, but so it was accepted. So then you get to how long have you been sober, and how did you get to that point?
Yeah, so I've been sober. It's going to be 11 years. So June 30th, 2010 is my sobriety date. If we fast forward a little bit, I mean, so when I first became an attorney, things kind of moved fast because I had this background where I had worked in that field all through undergrad and law school. So very shortly after working at this corporate law firm in Newport Beach, I started my own practice. Because, the ego and kind of the love of money, it was just kind of like calling me, I guess. And so it was relatively successful in a quick amount of time. And so that's just kind of like throwing,
That's on the fire.
That's exactly it. That's what I was looking for. But so you have this young guy who has an ego, who's already an alcoholic. All of a sudden he has a little bit of money, and you could get into some trouble really fast. I didn't have good coping mechanisms to deal with the stress, the money, all that. If I could go back in time and tell my younger self, I would never pick up any alcohol, and that's the hope for my children too. Is my hope is that they never pick it up, but we'll see. But yeah, so you have all this, and it's just it's a perfect little storm. So things kind of went downhill really fast.
Okay. And downhill where? Professionally?
Professionally, personally, it was to the point where, my alcoholism was to the point where I was suffering medical issues, and I was young, I was like barely 30. And I was like, I was having like medical issues, marriage wise. I was always lying to my wife about where I was going to be. I mean, I would make dinner plans with her and our daughter at the time, and I just wouldn't show up. I would stand them up. Like, who does that? What Christian father does that? You make plans with your wife and kids, and you just don't show up to the restaurant, and you don't come home that night.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. I look back and I'm like, what a bozo, right? But when you're in that
When you're in it,
disease,
yeah.
you don't even know. You're just trying to get that next rush. You're just trying to keep that party going. So yeah, there was just a lot of that. Unfortunately, professionally, I was not performing at my best. So had my professional reputation kind of tainted and tarnished for a little bit.
So
But
on
that's-
that, so in that question, because we talked, you've mentioned
Mhm.
several times already that you just didn't have the personal coping mechanism. So, were you raised in the church?
I was raised Catholic.
Okay.
So I was raised with a belief in God, and I went through all those kind of sacraments, but I did not have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ until I became a Christian.
And did you become a Christian during
I
all of
did.
this?
I did. I mean, so it's kind of funny when you look back and you see kind of the seeds that God planted, right? So I shared that I grew up in Corona. So, I was actually an altar boy. So my family was very involved in the Catholic Church. But starting in junior high, I had friends that actually would invite me to youth group at Crossroads. And so I would go, and I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool. And then when I was in high school, I had friends in high school that would invite me to Crossroads as well. And so when we were first married, we used to kind of peek in there a little bit. We would just like dip our toe in, and then we go back to like going to mass Catholic service, and I dip a toe in, and then and so we just kept going back and forth. But it wasn't until like just about right before I got sober where my wife actually accepted an altar call during service. And so she kind of
At Crossroads.
at Crossroads in tears, crying, and she accepted. I shortly there, maybe a month or so after accepted. And I actually accepted a call to get baptized on the spot. So I got baptized in my clothes. Yeah. And that's kind of when the ball was rolling, man. Like all these little things happened. I still went out and drank. I couldn't get sober. I would try, but eventually, think doors would open up. People came into my life, and and now here I am, 11 years or almost 11 years later.
And that's one of the encouraging things that I want everybody to understand is that, I got saved and I still drank a lot for a while.
Yeah.
And just because you get saved doesn't mean you're perfect, right?
No, not at all. It's actually opposite. You know what I mean? We all fall short,
Right.
Absolutely.
And we still have struggles that we have to get through.
Yeah.
And sometimes I wonder why Jesus had to, why it took so long.
Because you're stubborn like me.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just the kind of guy, I'm like, it just took me to have like a really deep bottom for him to rock bottom for him to kind of shake me
Until
to get my attention.
Until you realize he's all you got.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what you really got to figure out is that he's all you got.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
In the end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our wife is there as our helper. We have our kid, but in the end, Jesus is what we have.
Yeah. And that's all that should really matter.
That's all that should really matter.
Yeah.
And listen, guys, if you're out there listening, there's the deal. Here's the rub. If you're doing what God wants you to do, guess what? You'll have a better relationship with your wife, with your kids, with your friends. Right?
Yeah.
So that's why he comes first.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So,
a funny story though, by the way, is just
please.
So when we first started going to Crossroads, I remember, I kind of made a deal with my wife. I'm like, whatever you do, do not accept the altar call. Do not walk up there. we would be like,
You actually had that conversation?
yeah, but we weren't really, we were just kind of dipping our toes in, and I remember sitting there the first time. I'm like, as a guy who grew up an altar boy, very stoic, the Catholic faith is very stoic,
Stoic's a good word.
and yeah, I mean, people are drinking coffee, hands are raised in the air, and I'm just looking around like, I'm like, it was just the weirdest thing.
You weren't even allowed to whisper in a Catholic.
Yeah, and look at us now, I mean, but I remember like talking to my wife, like, whatever you do, neither of us, we're ever going to accept that altar call. That's ridiculous. And look at us now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's funny.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was raised Catholic too, and I remember the first time I walked into a Christian church, I was like, wow, nobody's dressed up. People wearing tank tops and flip flops.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is at least more my style. Let's see how this works, right? But I was just a CEO Catholic, so you weren't.
Oh yeah, you're a Christian, Easter.
No, yeah. Christmas, Easter.
Christmas,
Easter only, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's the kind of Catholic I was, right?
Yeah.
So it's much different for you than it was for me.
Yeah.
And you never ended up atheist. So I was looking for any type of change, right?
Yeah.
Because I became atheist. I turned to atheism. That's really what I turned from to. So, so during all of this time, you're talking about all of this. We've had some discussions, and again, we're going to take a break in about 2 minutes. So I don't want to get too deep into what we're talking about. But how about how about this? And I don't know how long it'll be, but was there what happened? What was the day that you hit bottom? You said,
yeah. I mean, I think I shared this story on Nazareth's show. I mean, I'll always remember it. I mean, I was kicked out of the house. So I was like, what was I, 31 at the time when I got sober? And I was at my parents' house living in the room I grew up in.
Your wife kicked you out of the house.
Yeah, I was out of the house.
She said, "This is
I at one point my practice was financially successful, but I you know how it is when you're burning through an addiction money. I mean, we burned through the money that we had, so no money, no house, and no wife. Like she was gonna leave me, and so I mean that
you've
that
been
was
married
it.
For 9-10 years.
Yeah,
at that point, right?
yeah, and so that kind of
had how many kids?
We had 2 at the time. Three. We had my son was little. He was like only a couple months old.
I don't care.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
I don't care how messed up you are. Your wife says, "Me and the kids were out."
Yeah. So I just remember sitting there in bed while I was at my parents' house. I'm like, just thinking like, what happened? Like what? How did I get here? I was like, what just happened? But
just after her altar call,
this was this was after.
Okay.
This was after because she did the altar call. I had later gotten baptized and I tried to get sober. I actually started going to Celebrate Recovery, which is AA for Christians,
right.
Which was at Crossroads at the time. And I would go out, I'd get like a week or so, or, I think I got up to a month sobriety. I'd get a chip and then I'd go back out. It's just kind of like, it was just a never ending cycle. But yeah, I mean, so when that happened, there was one final night while I was living at my parents' house. I went out and partied with a buddy of mine. Nobody could get a hold of me. I think like my battery actually ran out, nobody could get a hold of me. I ended up crashing at my office space and, there's a knock on the door and like cop car shining lights because there's like a wellness check on me because nobody could get a hold of me and they're so worried about me. And that was kind of like, that's the watered down version, but that's, all of a sudden you have no wife, no kids, you're living at home, no money, and the cops are checking up on you. Yeah. It's like, dude, so actually the very next day I went to rehab. Yeah.
So you went to rehab?
I did go to rehab. It was like, it was a great experience actually. So.
And how long were you at rehab?
A month. I did the full month. Yeah. Yeah.
And you haven't drank since?
Never. I was blessed where, I hear people and I've, been a sponsor to people where people have that obsession of drinking. And I'm just blessed that where God kind of took away that obsession right away. I never really had that urge, to go back. I remember walking through the doors of rehab, and I just really felt this. I could feel the physical weight coming off my shoulders, and God telling me it's going to be okay. And I just embraced it, and it's been a crazy ride, you know.
Okay, give me a minute.
Yeah.
We're not gonna break, Tristan.
Oh, okay.
We but we are, but we're not. Okay. So don't cut away. Don't kill my time, because, hey, Mom, if you're listening, I know you said it looked like we were being rude, so I don't want to be rude. So here's one of the things that I'm supposed to be doing during the break is my buddy Brian is part of our Saturday mornings. He is a level 2 CrossFit trainer. He has his own CrossFit at his house. So look him up. It's School of Sweat. I can't remember if it's schoolofsweat.com, but it's Brian Stone King at School of Sweat. All you got to do is Google School of Sweat, and it'll take you to Brian Stone King. If you want to get in shape, you want to learn how to eat, you want to, they do a lot of things together. They go to races together and stuff like that. So look him up, Brian Stone King. I had this all written down somewhere. I don't know where it is now because it's been 2 years. I was gone for 2 years, guys. So then I am going to take a short break, though. So 2 things: kill the sound and black us out. Yeah, and we'll be right back.
Though I'm the chief of sinners, I've been declared the winner. 'Cause I was blind, but now I see. Was lost, but not forgotten. Redeemed by the only begotten. The Son of God, He lives in me. Oh yeah. Among the sinner, I am chief. Let's travel. Well, I have come, I'm just a man, a sinner saved by grace, a soldier in this battle. Well, I will run, and though I stumble and fall, He picks me up again. And I can't see you there, but I can feel you here. So amazed that you love me, though I'm the chief of sinners. I've been declared the winner, 'cause I was blind, but now I see. Lost but not forgotten, redeemed by the only begotten. The Son of God, He lives in me. Oh yeah. Among the sinner, I am chief. Well, I'm no better than you, that's for sure now. I've fallen short again, and I cry out for mercy with a hammer and nail in my hand. Sees everything that I do.
Of our group.
All right, we're back. Sorry, we're still black.
You forgot to mention about Brian that he's also the warden of our Men of Impact group.
He is the
Yeah.
warden of our Men of Impact group. He's the guy. I know we're on a delay. Maybe that's what I'm seeing, right? So he is the warden of our Men of Impact group. He's the one that keeps us on task. We've got a timekeeper, Mike Miller.
That's right. That's right.
And then we've got a taskmaster, Brian. It would figure that I guess it would go ahead. It would figure that the fitness coach is the taskmaster.
That's right.
So he keeps us on pace, and especially when we're going through a long book like Isaiah.
Yeah. Well, if anybody here new visits the group, I mean, please ask a lot of questions during the Bible study. Brian will appreciate that.
So real quick, before we get back, how did you end up at the Bible study?
I saw a Facebook group. So I had actually seen you guys a couple times in person around the fire because I had lived in Sycamore Creek and in Lake Elsinore. So when I would go to that Starbucks, and I saw you guys a couple times. And I mean, long story short, my wife and I were part of a group. That group disbanded because the person that led that moved. My wife started her own group, very successful. I never got plugged back in. And so I was praying for a group, and that post just kept popping up. I would make every reason not to show up. I would tell my wife, "Oh, that group posted again, blah, blah, blah." And I finally did. And, that was last year.
How long did that go on?
Oh man, I put it on the back burner for like probably a couple months. I knew God was telling me in my heart to get plugged in again because my faith was starting to become complacent. There was a time where, my family and I were very kind of on fire for the Lord. We were doing various ministries through like our Adopt-A-Block. I was volunteering for VBS. I was a decision counselor at Crossroads at our church. And then, and we were in life groups. And then, the devil is sneaky, man.
Sneaky.
He very sneaky.
Right.
And I was very, very complacent in my faith. And I would hear that whisper, you need to get plugged in. You get plugged in. And meanwhile, my wife's life group took off and was doing great. And I'm just sitting here and I'm not with other like-minded men.
Right.
And
it was in one of the neighborhood Facebook pages.
Yeah.
So there you go, guys. When you start your own, that's one of the tricks.
Yeah.
Go to the neighborhood Facebook page. And I honestly haven't done that in a while because I did meet with some resistance when it wasn't COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't want, honestly, this is the truth. I didn't want to deal with any resistance or negativity from somebody who thought that we were just awful people for meeting in a group.
Oh, I see.
So,
yeah.
Because there's those people out there.
Yeah.
And I get it. But, we choose to, so we.
And we did meet via Zoom for a little bit.
We did meet via Zoom for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. So we actually, until they said a gathering of 10 was allowed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were we weren't going against all the rules. We're playing by the rules. And since we were in public, and the reason we do it in public is for people who walk by, we prayed for people and stuff like that. That's one of the reasons that we do it.
Yeah.
Out in public. And because there's a lot of countries out there where nobody gets to. So
yeah, we're lucky.
We just get to enjoy that part of it. And it can be inspiring, I guess, to see a big group of men just reading the Bible at 6:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah, I always thought it was cool, because I was a fellow believer and I didn't know you guys yet. And I would just see, I'm like, there's just a group of guys studying the Bible in the open. I'm like, that's pretty cool.
So now let's get back to you.
Okay.
So at what point did you decide you weren't going to be an attorney anymore? And were there any, a two-part question, what were the deciding factors and some of the health issues you were talking about too? What might have they have been?
Yeah. I mean, I knew very quickly, even though I had worked in the legal field through undergrad and law school, I knew very quickly, like, I think within the first 2 months that I did not like being an attorney. I remember like I was working at the law firm still. I was working for someone else and he had me go to trial. So I did like this small trial on a contract issue. And it just wasn't like what I had envisioned in my head. It was like, you're thinking you're going to be out there at the podium. I mean, we literally just sat at the table and the other attorney read notes, and it was very monotone. No, absolutely not. And I'm just like, and that was kind of my first inclination that like, okay, this isn't what I thought it would be. And then later when I started my own practice, I definitely bit off more than I could chew, so it was just kind of that overwhelming feeling. But I had known like before I got sober that I wasn't happy. In fact, when I was in rehab, either my wife or my dad bought me like a book on what you can do with a law degree other than being an attorney. I had a good idea that when I came out of that, and I was like, man, this is my second chance. I'm gonna do what I want to do.
So you mentioned that you ended up there. You had no money, no house, no wife, no kids.
Yeah.
I mean, you always have kids.
Yeah.
But you know what
I mean, my wife was working, but just savings was dwindled and all that stuff.
So you made this decision at what some people would consider the worst possible time.
Yeah.
But was the best possible time for you and your health and your mental health.
Absolutely.
And you were suffering mentally too?
Yeah, I actually did not know that I suffered from anxiety until I got sober. I mean, I always say that when I share with people. It's like, that's serious, because I always medicated. I self-medicated. So you had no idea. So once I stopped drinking, and it was after I was in rehab and I was at home and trying to, get my life together and all that stuff. I would just be overwhelmed with these emotions and feelings. And I'm like, what is that feeling? And it was anxiety. So this whole time I had anxiety or some form of anxiety. But I never knew it until I got sober.
Because once that feeling starts to hit you, what do?
You pick up the bottle.
You pick up the bottle, baby.
Yep.
That's what you do.
Yeah, you just numb yourself.
Yeah. Picked up the bottle. For me, it was, I picked up the bottle, picked up a joint, picked up a pill, whatever it was.
Whatever it was. Yeah.
I picked it up.
Yeah.
Right? And so you, for years, we probably didn't even know we had feelings.
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I when I was I was probably like my second week sober and I was still in rehab. I remember there was one morning where I literally just cried. And it was just like an overwhelming flush of emotions and I had no idea why I was crying. And, the counselor there said that it was just because you're now it's your first time feeling again. And it was an overwhelming. I mean, I sat there and just cried for no reason, like just boom. It was just a flush of emotion. It was nuts.
So now you realize what this is going on. So what? Okay, here we are. So you had a counselor there. There was some therapy.
Yeah,
there, right?
yeah.
Did any of that continue?
I did. So I actually still do see a therapist as I see fit. I don't see one regularly, but because of my background being sober, and I actually I went through the 12 steps. So I feel I'm very self-aware about my mental health. So whenever I feel that I'm like kind of going down a rabbit hole, I'll actually kind of proactively book an appointment with a therapist. So
and that's what happened for me is when and I had quit drinking for a long time, but I then there was still other things that I did that to numb my feelings. Right?
Yeah.
And then I finally went to therapy, and I was going once a week, sometimes twice, but once a week. And then he said, okay, look, every other week. And then he said, okay, once a month. And he said, look, when you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. And so now what I do is I will call one of the guys first.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing we have to learn, right?
Yeah. You got to pick up that phone.
And you have to learn what's happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And you have to learn how to not pick up the bottle. Right.
Yeah.
Because you have to learn, okay, I know what this means. Right?
Yep.
I know what I'm feeling. I may not know exactly why I'm feeling it. But for me, it starts with thoughts. Again, I'm asking you, what does it start with for you?
Probably thoughts. It's just kind of the worst case scenario thing. That's kind of what, it's once the anxiety kicks in, that's what it is. I get not paranoid, but it's just I'm always thinking of the worst that's going to happen.
Wait for the other shoe to drop.
Yeah. And that's not how God wants us to live.
No.
He wants us to live without fear. He wants us to be bold and brave and rest in him.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of how it manifests itself with me. I mean, I just like a work example, it would be like, I forgot to call a client back, and all of a sudden, like, oh, that client's going to leave and blah, blah, blah. And, it's just, I'm always thinking about the worst. And
So
that's just not.
So instead of calling that client, You do
Yeah.
nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You get paralyzed by fear.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
It's crazy.
It's nuts.
We talked about that the
Yeah.
other day. I shared with you. That's kind of where I was at, man.
Yeah. And I wanted to let you know that, you're not alone. There's definitely other men like myself that go through that,
And that's why we're doing the radio
Yeah.
show, to let people know that, and again, to let people know that, look, I went to one of my guys.
Yeah. There you go. That's right.
Who honestly, and here's how I know God leads, because we didn't even know that about each other.
No.
Right?
No.
And then I mentioned it, and then you walked up, and we had a very open conversation. And guys, you got to do that. And,
yeah, you just got to be vulnerable. Yeah, you just got to be transparent.
Which the way I was raised, that was a curse word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both of those.
Yeah.
Transparent and vulnerable, curse words. I was not raised in that house. You were a man. You didn't get to be either. It was just the way it was. Man.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not just bigger than just your household. I think society-wise, right? I mean, that was, especially back then. It's just that's when I was growing up too. It's you don't have those feelings because you're a guy. You don't show any weakness. Mm-hmm. And that's just not healthy.
It's not healthy. Now, we may have gone a little over the line these days with what's this?
Yeah,
but
that's for another show.
That's for another show. But so you do have to be vulnerable. You have to take it to your guys and listen. I say it almost every show is those guys have to be on your wife's approved list.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because you were a sorority guy.
Fraternity guy.
Fraternity guys.
Yeah.
Sororities are girls.
For girls, yeah.
You were a fraternity guy. Let's not get crazy. That's for a whole nother show.
Yeah.
So you're a fraternity guy. And I forgot what I was going to say, man. Okay. So you're a fraternity guy. Where were we at?
You're going to add, I think, guys on the approved list.
Oh, guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys. So you're a fraternity guy.
Yeah.
You struggle with the wife, or you get in trouble. You don't go home one night. What does a non-believer say? I mean, a non-believer will take your side.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that guy's not going to be on the approved list.
Yeah. 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 And you know what? My wife she's awesome. She has better discernment of people's characters than me, I mean, not so much now because we're both Christian, we're involved in church and all that stuff. But, my friends list before sobriety, she would tell me, she would drop little hints like, I don't like that person. Why are you hanging out with that person? I don't want you going out with that person. You stay out too late. And I was kind of like that people pleaser, like, like, oh, they're fine. They're nice. They're, but she just has a better discernment and judge of character than me.
And those guys are telling you, just stay out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's that stereotype. Like, she's the old ball and chain.
Yeah.
Come out. But that's also. I mean, God doesn't want you to live like that either.
No.
He doesn't want you to refer to your wife as a ball and chain. I'm like, that's the last thing
that
God wants you to do. Yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
she's not what's holding you back.
Yeah. We're called to love our wives like Christ loves his church.
So good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said in the beginning, we know we're not perfect, but we strive to be. We have a perfect example.
Yep.
In Jesus Christ, right?
Yeah.
So we can at least try to be more of him, less of me, Lord. Please, more of him, less of me. Right? So, so I was going somewhere. Wow! All of a sudden, I'm sorry. Sometimes I get stuck on stupid, but all right. So now you have to have your approved guys list, and then you have to get into a group, and something you guys all gotta think about. And this is what you're hearing right here is Ray is sharing, being vulnerable and sharing with everybody some thoughts that are tough.
Yeah.
And they're tough to get through alone.
Yeah. And just because you're a Christian doesn't mean they go away. I mean, I probably had, I think I shared with you, I had like probably a bad case of anxiety over COVID, where I actually told my wife, I'm like, something's not right with me. There's a lot going on at the time. I was having some conflict at the company I was working with, and COVID had just started. We were like kind of figuring out where we're going to put our kids. So there was all this uncertainty in the air, and it felt very overwhelming. And I had never felt like that sense of kind of dread, actually, not just anxiety, but dread. And thankfully, thank goodness that I was self-aware enough that I actually went to my wife and I said, this is not right. Like, there's some bad thoughts in there. I was actually so concerned that I shared with my parents, and I love my parents, but we just, we don't share that stuff. I mean, it's just the way I was raised. And so I actually went to my mom and dad. I'm like, has anybody in our family like suffered from depression? Because I have like these, these thoughts. I've never felt this. But yeah, I mean, thankfully, I went to see my therapist and my counselor, and everything was okay in short order. But I guess I wanted to kind of chime in there that just because you're a Christian doesn't mean that life goes perfectly and all those problems go away, But
and I think it's very important that we both share that we went to therapy. We'll still call our therapists, and Jesus is a great healer and a great counselor, but sometimes we need to hear it.
Yeah.
To give us the tools. We do need to be in the Word. Don't get me wrong, and remember that. But that doesn't mean, again, that just because you're a Christian doesn't mean you don't suffer certain things.
Yeah, for sure. And my older sister, she has had some tragedy in that her her boyfriend actually suffered from severe depression, and he committed suicide. And this was just kind of within the last 2 years. And I was with her on a road trip. We were helping my parents move just this last weekend. So we were in the car together for 6 hours. And I actually told her, I'm like, I'm very like kind of sympathetic, of what happened to him, because I let her know that I kind of had this short bout of depression. But I mean, it really opened my eyes, because if anybody knows me, they know that I'm an optimistic person. Like, I'm happy-go-lucky. I'm usually very positive, looking for the best. I have a great family, a great support system, and even with all of that, I still felt that dread. So I mean, if I could kind of suffer from that anxiety and that bout of depression a little bit, I mean, what about the next guy who doesn't have
all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is not self-aware, is pessimistic, and I'm an optimist.
It doesn't have a support group. So
yeah, it's crazy.
What can we tell those guys?
Well, you got to get help. You got to get help, and there's no shame in that. I mean, I think that's the reason too. I'm pretty open. It's like there is that stigma, and we would. If we could help get rid of that kind of mental health stigma, especially as it pertains to men, I think that would help a lot of people.
And that's what Men of Impact's all about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, people out there, we're in COVID. There's people isolated right now that don't have a support system, man.
And we've already discussed that men alone, that is a bad recipe, man.
It's stressful to be a man. It is. I mean, it's a lot of pressure. And I tell my sons that. I'm like, it's a lot of pressure to be a man.
And you have to learn how to deal with it.
You do.
And if you sit there and
deal with it healthily, in a healthy way.
In a healthy way.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We dealt with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not so healthy.
Yeah. Which in a nutshell means we're not dealing with it.
Yeah.
If you're not dealing with it in a healthy way, you're just not dealing with it. That's what's happening.
Yep.
And if you sit there and, I mean, I'll tell you one of the things AA did for me, because I did AA, but way after I stopped drinking. When my wife stopped drinking, I started going with her.
Yeah.
And I just quit cold turkey, white knuckled it for about 3 or 4 years until it smoothed out. But then come to find out, I had a lot of mental issues.
Yeah.
Right. That AA or Celebrate Recovery helps you work through.
Oh, absolutely. The 12 steps are awesome.
Steps.
Awesome.
It really is about the brain.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just, hey, stop drinking and white knuckle it. No, this is what's happening in your head.
Yep.
And I remember one guy sharing one day, and he said, because I'm crazy, and crazy thoughts are in my head. I went, holy cow. I'm
Just
about to
like
see-
me. That's when the light goes off. Like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'm not alone. I'm crazy.
yeah. It's funny.
It's funny, but you need to have those kind of aha moments and talks and listen to people to become self-aware,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You're not born with that.
Mm-mm.
I don't think.
No.
And so to become self-aware, you got to have those moments, and you can't have those moments if you don't let yourself be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things Jesus Christ teaches is that, now don't get me wrong, Jesus Christ was not a softie.
No, not at all.
Any stretch of the imagination. That man stood up in front of people who could have his life and told them they were wrong. So, and there's part of the tough being a man,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We have to be bold and courageous.
Yeah.
And vulnerable.
Yeah. I'm doing this Bible study in one of my other groups, and it's called Man Up, and the guy that writes it, he coins it, calling it spiritual sissy. Like, stop being a spiritual sissy. Stand up for what's right.
Who wrote the book?
Jody something, Jody Burkhart.
I think I read the book, Man Up.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
sure.
good. It's good. It's a good little Bible study. We read a chapter a week, and it has questions in the back and all that fun stuff.
So Man Up, there's a word.
Yeah.
There's a book. Not a fan. That's a book. I read a book by T.D. Jakes one time called So You Call Yourself a Man. That was a great book. So that's it. The other part of to become self-aware is you got to read some books like that. Okay, so we're done in about 2 hours, 2 minutes, and
Oh, great.
45 seconds. So more about, again, let everybody know what you do, where you work.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I'm a fiduciary financial advisor. I work at a company called Advice Period. You can just reach me on my website, which is my name, www.rayprospero.com.
And fiduciary, whatever you said, that's in layman's terms.
We put our clients' best interest first.
Financially.
Yes.
For their future.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, guys, Men of Impact at menofimpact@gmail.com. Men of Impact, you can contact us there. You can contact us at on the Facebook page. You can contact us on the Instagram page. Right now, you can't contact us on the website, but we're going to get that up and running because you know what? I got a guy. So contact us. Any questions, listen, one of the things we were talking about with some of the action committee last night is if you know somebody, a single mom, elderly, that needs stuff done around the house, let us know. Send us an email. If you need, anything like that, if you've got an in for, marginalized kids that we can help, young men that we might be able to take fishing or, I know, with the world today, but, I don't know what that all means, what kind of paperwork might need to be signed, but if you have anything that you need done, I got a guy. If you're looking to get some work done at the house or you're looking for a contractor, hey, send us a note. I'll at least send somebody you can trust. Somebody that's not going to rip you off. Same thing in Ray's profession. I'm sure there's plenty of crooks in your profession.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Plenty.
Absolutely.
So let us know. I got a guy that can help you out and you'll be able to trust them. Because if they don't, well, I've got some big guys too that'll take care of that for you. So they'll make sure that you could trust them the next time, or that you get everything that's due you. That's for sure. So any shout outs?
No, I mean, hopefully if my wife is listening, hey, love you.
And
I think some of the guys from my Friday night group might be listening. So see you guys in a little bit.
All right. And thank you so much for coming, Ray.
No, thank you. Thanks, Anthony. Appreciate it.
It was great. And, maybe we'll do this again in the future.
Yeah.
So you guys, see ya Saturday mornings, 6:30 to 8 a.m. Indian Truck Trail. Have a great evening. Thank you so much. I love you, and Jesus loves you more.